There, guys, it's Ryan over at BNR Motorsports. I've been trying to do some more videos, spread a little bit of information, and try to help guys out. Because I see stuff on Facebook, and we live in a society where people want instant gratification. So, I'm trying to make some of these videos explaining some stuff to you guys. Obviously, I have years and years and years of experience here, thousands of championships. Personally raced myself. Know kind of the insides and outs of this industry and see kind of how things are going and some of the stuff dished out. So today what we want to do is I'm going to actually go over our shock shipping form. This is our general form, whether you're getting something serviced, revalved, resprung, or full conversion done on a shock, like this Can-Am shock that's has a full conversion, dual rate revalve, respring, body mods, the whole 9 yards. So here's a shipping note. Please clean your stuff before you send them in. Zip tie your bearings and bushings in. We don't need your shock bolts. You can keep those. If you send them here, they get lost in shipping or something. Remove all the loose spacers and reducers. We don't need your spacers and reducers, or if they're in good shape, you can keep those. I don't need any of that stuff if you want to keep them. Do send your springs in if you're getting them set up. If you're just getting them serviced and you're not worried about the springs, you can keep the springs if you want. This is pretty basic, just name, address, return info. Your credit card info, we don't need that. That's just if you can't get to the phone and you're trying to get them out like ASAP and you don't want to wait for us to call you, you can just do that. ATV, bike, UTV, model, whatever model right here. Type of riding, if you're racing, XC, MX, TT. If you're just a dune rider, a trail rider, UTV racer, UTV rider, whatever the case may be. Your rider level, if you're racing, that would be the class that you're racing, more than likely. If just trail rider, you could just put all that, just beginner, intermediate, whatever. Now rider level is very important because just because you race the Pro-Am class or the A class doesn't necessarily make you a Pro-Am or an A rider. So if you're not competing, for the top 3, top 5 in that class, you may be actually in a class below you. I know this is tough for some guys and this can hurt your pride, but take a look in the mirror and look at your lap times and decide, because the number one complaint we have with shocks is they're too stiff or they're too soft. It's all done off of this. So if you tell us you're an A rider but you're 5 minutes a lap off the pace, your shocks are probably going to be set up too stiff for you, because you're probably more like a B rider. So that's very, very, very important to try and be as honest with us as you can. We don't share this with anyone. No one's going to make fun of anybody. This is just the truth. If you prefer a softer setup, and you are an A rider, like you could put B, or if you prefer a stiffer setup, etc. Now, A arm length and brand, that's going to be standard travel, long travel, +1, +2, +3, and what brand it is. Lone Star, Hauser, Texera, etc. Rider weight, which you weigh without gear. When we take the gear into consideration, please do it without gear. Swing arm length and brand, same thing, whether it's an OEM or an aftermarket. On a Honda, it's very important you put whether it's an 06 or an 05, because a lot of guys have 05s that put 06 swing arms on them. Please fill that out correctly. That way we know, we get a lot of mismatched shocks. Rear linkage is going to be, the same thing, what brand linkage you have. If you're buying a linkage for us or doing a conversion, you can just put buying yours or via conversion, whatever you want, just so we know, we'll set it up for the link that you're purchasing. Front tires, rear tires, that's your tire sizes, 21s, 20s, 22s, what you're running. It's going to change your ride height, so we need to know those. Front shocks, what you're sending in. It's going to ask front shock, rear shock linkage, reducers, bearings, bushings, springs on the shock. Just fill these out. That way if you send us a linkage, you can select that and we make sure you get your linkage back. Insurance is going to be the standard insurance included with the cost of shipping. That's going to be $250. So if it costs $25 to ship your shocks back, you're going to have $250 in insurance. Means if you get your shocks lost, you'll get $250. You will not get any more. Very rarely does UPS make a mistake, but it does happen. Basic level, the extra $10 is going to buy you $500, plus the extra $20 is going to buy you $1,000. UPS doesn't really insure over 1,000. So if you want to insure for 2,000, I suggest you send 2 boxes. You know, because if not, they won't do that. Service desired. This is very important. The service only, if you select that and just that, don't select anything else, and just select service only. All we're going to do is we're going to service your shock. New nitrogen, new oil, new seals. Shock will be reassembled, same length, extended and compressed, same spring, stack, etc. It's all going to go back on. Your clickers are going to be put back the same way they were sent in. We keep files of all that stuff. So that's going to be your service only. If we're doing a front shock conversion, this is going to be a conversion for an OEM shock, whether it's a Honda or Yamaha, Suzuki. This is going to be your front shock conversion. So if you're sending stock shocks in to get converted, go ahead and click that there. Check shock lengths. This is going to be if we're revalving, respringing, setting something up. So if you decide to have your shock service and you want to make sure they're correct for the A-arms and stuff you have, a lot of stuff gets secondhand, you click check shock lengths. So you're going to do this, you're going to do check shock lengths. Don't even fill this service only, just check shock lengths. Set valving, that's going to be the same thing. If you want us to check the valving, go ahead and fill that out. If you're getting a conversion, you don't have to select set valving. We're going to do that regardless. This would just be like if you send us a rear axis shock and you want us to check the length and the valving, you're going to select those. So that way we check it all out. Fox Gen 3 Evol mod. This is only for Fox floats. You don't need to fill this out or select this for any other type of shock. Only for a Generation 3 Fox float. Check spring rate. That's going to be the same thing. If you send in a shock that's already been converted or revalved, whether it's an Axis, a Fox, an OEM conversion that your buddy John had done that you now purchase from him, you're going to do check spring rate. We're going to rate the spring on a spring tester, a very expensive spring tester that's going to check compression and release, extension of the spring. So select that so we can check, make sure that's right. Rear shock conversion, same thing. That's going to be the OEM. You know, like these Can-Ams, like if you were sending a set in, you would do front shock conversion, rear shock conversion if you sent all 4. So if you send all 3 shocks and you know, it's a Yamaha, Honda, you send a UTV shock, Can-Am, whatever, and you want them converted, that's going to be conversion. Black body upgrade. This is one that gets a little bit confusing. Black body upgrade, extremely common on an OEM Yamaha YFZ 450R rear shock. Helps the oil stay cooler. Do it on the carb YFZs as well. We do it on these Can-Am shocks as well. This one does not have it, but we do it. We can do it on your Maverick shocks, your Razor shocks. Anything that has an aluminum body can be done. Now, on the Hondas, it's only the where the bladders go. That's it. That's the only part that gets done because the bodies are steel. They don't get anodized. So it's not as big of an upgrade on the Hondas, but it costs a little bit more money. We can do it on the Hondas. It's just not something that happens very often, so we don't normally recommend it unless you're really wanting to trick those shocks out. Purchase linkage. That's if you're buying a link from us, getting a conversion, buying a link, or you're sending in, you know, an Axis that has an eyelet. You need a link. We carry, you know, Lone Star, Hauser, Texera. We have our own stuff as well. We can recommend and get you a good setup. Now, other, that's this. Other is going to be, if you want to have your springs powder coated a certain color, you would write, please powder coat colors, springs white. Now, keep in mind, anything custom is going to add time. So if you're told 5 days to service your shocks, but you tell us you want to have your springs done in white, you know, that's going to add anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks, depending on our powder coater turnaround. We don't powder coat in-house. We have a guy that does our stuff. He does a great job. We can accommodate anything you want to do. Black bodies, tie nitrated shafts, whatever you want to do, but that's going to add time to your basic service and conversions. Now, one of the other things we request here is, I see guys all the time say, oh, I sent my shocks to BNR, I got them back, I don't really like them, they're too soft, they're too stiff, etc. Work with us. We want you to be happy. That's why we're here. We've been doing this for years. We don't do this at night and have another full-time job. This is what we do day in and day out. We don't work on the side. We don't sell houses. We don't make big money on the side doing other stuff. This is what we do. The amount of stuff we do here and the experience we have, we're trying to help you with and expand your knowledge. So what you want to do is, if you had a set of conversions done from us, for example, and you raced on them for the year and you send them in to have them serviced, if you think the front shocks could be a little bit better and say, front shocks seem a little slow in the they seem a little slow in the choppy stuff. Write that down. Let us know. Let us know what's going on, and then hit set valving, check spring rates, etc. Because we'll go ahead and tweak that for you. If you have the conversions done here, you have, you know, an Axis or a Fox or a Elka or anything redone here, and, you know, 6 months down the road you want to have it serviced, if you want to make a little tweak, just let us know. We're not going to charge you for that tweak as far as valving's concerned. Now, if we got to change springs, we will. We do offer 60-day ride guarantee, which means if you want to make any changes within the first 60 days, it's free. You know, we're not going to charge you to do it. But the same goes for anything that's ever been done here. I mean, I have guys that have been running the same rear shock for 7 years. We can make a tweak over the winter and try to make it a little bit better for you. That's why we're here. You know, just sending your shocks off to another builder and them starting from scratch, etc., doesn't really mean anything. You know, we can give you some ideas on clickers. When we convert your stuff or we reset up your stuff, we'll set your clickers. If we're servicing them, we won't. They're gonna stay the same way, so they're not gonna change. It's just gonna be if you're, you know, having a conversion done or you're having any valving done or spring rates, you know, having something set up for you. So please be descriptive in here. Keep in mind, anything custom we do is gonna add time. But we can accommodate whatever you want to do as long as you're willing to wait for that custom stuff. If you're not, you know, we'll do the standard so we can keep you rolling along. But that pretty much goes over this shock shipping form. Fill this out. I mean, we've had guys that'll print out and add more stuff to them. Be as descriptive as you can. When your shocks get shipped in, they go into a holding bin, you know, and this is how we file everything. So the better you can get this, the more it helps us. The quicker your turnaround is going to be, things are going to be a little bit smoother. So please take a minute, watch this video, fill out this form information. If you got any questions, feel free to ask.